Hello, hello, and welcome to this final episode of Maiden Mondays. This is a collaboration between Women Who Sail, the Maiden Factor, the National Women's Sailing Association, and it's sponsored by Nautic Ed. We're so glad to have you today. Here's a little bit of information about Nautic Ed for you. We hope you look that up. They're offering a really great discount on classes right now, and all of the money also goes to the Maiden Factor. My name is Anne Bryant, and I am an admin for Women Who Sail. I've been an admin for about 7 or 8 years now, and I'm here with Tracy Edwards and a panel of current crew of Maiden. And we're so glad you're joining us today. I hope that in the comments you tell us where you're watching from, and any questions you might have for our Q&A session later, please put them below. A little reminder also that the National Women's Sailing Association is offering a 20% discount to members of Women Who Sail, and you just use the code Women Who Sail when you go to checkout. So I'd like to introduce first Tracy Edwards, who is going to be talking about the Maiden Factor, which is the mission behind why Maiden was restored and put back on the water again. And it's why we're here today to talk about what Maiden's next steps are. Tracy, go for it. And hello.
Oh, right. Hi. Well, thank you so much again for inviting us all here for another Maiden Monday, our final one, which seems a little bit sad. But we've got, apart from the fact that we'd love to tell you about Maiden and what we're doing, this is a final call to action. We have 2 days left of our crowdfunder, and we have just under 30% still to raise. So we've done a fantastic job so far, but we need every single person watching to donate something, anything at all. It really doesn't matter. Every single penny helps keep Maiden moving and get us through this thing that this dreadful virus that we're all going through at the moment. Going back to give you a little bit of background of why we're doing what we're doing. I skippered Maiden 30 years ago, the first all-female crew to sail around the world when we raced Maiden in the Whitbread Round the World race, the 1989-90 Whitbread Round the World race. There's been a film out, which I know actually a lot of you have seen. I've had great comments from Women Who Sail about the film. That came out last year, and 30 years later really reminded us how hard it was 30 years ago to get people to take us seriously. People really did think that we were going to die, and we can raise the money, and it is incredibly instructive to look back and see how hard it was. I mean, things have changed. As we all know, there's a lot further to go, but we're all playing our part in that. Every single woman in Women Who Sail and National Women's Sailing Association, and all of us are playing our part. So we came second overall. We won 2 legs, which is the best result for British boats since 1977. I do just like saying that over and over again. So we unfortunately had to sell Maiden at the end of the Whitbread, and we never had any money. And she went off and did various things, and I went off to other all-female crews, and the original crew went off to other sailing projects. And then 5 years ago, as I met the director who was going to make the documentary, I also discovered Maiden, and Maiden just burst back into my life, not just with the film, but finding her rotting away in the Seychelles. She'd been there for 2 years by the time we found her. So we did a big crowdfunder, much like we're doing now, and we raised the money to buy her, all of the original crew, and we shipped her back to the UK with the help of Her Royal Highness Princess Haya, who is King Hussein's daughter and a real chip off the old block. He, of course, sponsored us the first time round. And then we restored her to her former glory. We spent a year and a half restoring her to her former glory. And actually, most of the women that I'll be introducing you to this evening on the current Maiden crew have had a lot to do with the refit and everything really that's happened since then. I think it's interesting because I think really for the first time, because of the virus and this hold that's been put on the Maiden Factor, we are talking very truthfully about how hard it was this time to get Maiden off the ground and restored, and the refit, which was not 100% brilliant, and what it's taken to get her around the world. So our mission, the Maiden Factor Foundation, is to sail around the world. We were in the middle of a 3-year world tour. in March of this year when we were stopped in our tracks. And we'd already covered 33,000 miles, stopping in 22 destinations in over 20 countries. And we raised a significant amount of money for our partner charities. We have funded programs all over the world, in Africa, in India, Sri Lanka, Guatemala, America, the UK. We fund and we support communities who enable girls into education in developing countries, but we also support and work with communities who keep girls in education throughout their teenage years, and those are mostly girls in developed countries such as the UK, America, Australia and New Zealand. So we would like to resume our world tour in April next year. We think, looking at situation for vaccine, everything else, that will be possible. Obviously we need everyone to be safe, and a huge part of what we do is engaging with people, and that's why this crew of the current crew of Maiden is so extraordinary, because they are not just sailors, they are ambassadors, they're patrons, they're fundraisers, they're educators, they're mentors. They are so inspirational. When Maiden sails into port and hundreds of girls come down to the boat, they're all just staring at the crew, and I know they're thinking, you know, I could do that, you know, I could do that. And really, for me, that is the strength of Maiden, because I am living proof of what a girl can do if just one person believes in her. And so much of what we do on Maiden is not just about fundraising and educating and raising awareness and mentoring and all the other things that we do. For me, it's about showing girls physical proof of what girls are capable of. And that's why Maiden is so special and so extraordinary, and it's been on this extraordinary world tour. We decided very early on we were going to have a permanent crew of 4, and then we were going to have these legendary skippers do 3 or 4 months at a time.
So we do have current crew of Maiden with us here today. I'm going to start with Nikki Henderson, whose name you might recognize from recent times, but I'm gonna run over just how Nikki's year went in 2018 to 2019. So she was the youngest person to ever skipper in the Clipper race, and then went on to do the first leg of the tour with Maiden from September 2018 to 19. Gets off the boat, goes and does and wins R2AK. Then she goes and does a fast net, does the Rolex Middle Sea race, and then carries Greta Thunberg on the Vagabond. So that's Nikki Henderson. That's who we're talking with today. I've got a lot of questions for Nikki, mostly around her sanity. And Erica Lush is with us as well. She was originally temporary crew from Greece to Sydney, but has joined full-time as of the stop that they made in San Francisco. She works on Maiden as the sailmaker officially, and she started in dinghy sailing, but she's since then been a deckhand, mate, and captain on boats from 30 foot to 120 foot long. We also have Amalia Infante, and she joined the crew in Sri Lanka and is a documentarian that works with the boat. So she does a lot of work with making sure that people understand the story behind what's happening on Maiden when she's out to sea. She also has done a lot of coverage for the Volvo Ocean Race, so you may also know her name from there. And she did write a book called Life Behind the Sails if you're interested in knowing more about her work with Volvo Ocean Race and doing documentation there. Finally, we've got Belle Henry. Belle's a little more like me in that she didn't grow up sailing, but came to it later and fell in love with it. Belle loves racing and sailing, and so the last 15 years of her life in the marine industry have culminated into this really unbelievable position on Maiden, where she's just racking up the miles. At this point, between all the regatta miles and the work that she's done on Maiden, she's done about 90,000 ocean miles. So by no means a beginner at this point. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I'm so very proud to be a part of this. This is great.
Could I say a little bit of a personal little thing about everyone?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
That's my favorite.
We had our eye on Nikki Henderson, as she doesn't know this, I've probably never told her. But as she was finishing the Clipper, becoming so Wendy Tuck came first and Nikki Henderson came second. we had our eye on her, and we invited her down to Maiden, and Maiden was still in the yard having this horrendous refit, this restoration. She was very good. She didn't look horrified at the state of the boat, which I thought was very impressive. And you know, we said to her, we'd love you to be our first skipper, and she went, okay, yeah, righty ho. And you know, then literally a couple of months later, she called me up and she said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So we were so delighted, because she'd taken on a project that she'd seen was not perfect, because as we all know, there's no such thing as a perfect sailing project. Really, as the first member of crew to join Maiden, which is why she's our first mate, she really went through hell and high water to get Maiden through the restoration and onto the water, and has been, I think, a mentoring and calming influence on other crew members that we've had join, and also our guests and mile builders. And you know, she's always been there through thick and thin. Erica joining us, as you say, temporarily, we just all fell in love with Erica, and Belle and everyone came to me and went, you can't let her leave. I went, okay, Erica, apparently you can't leave. And she went, oh, that's great, because I really want to stay. Amalia, we hunted very hard for Amalia, because we knew how very important the photographer and the woman taking the footage would be for our next documentary, which we're making, and for the images, the wonderful images. Most of the images and footage you'll see tonight have been from Amalia. When we found her and we looked at what she'd done, we just thought, wow, this is the woman for us. She joined, she slotted right in, as so often is with all female crews. You know, we just all get on with it. But I do have to say that this crew really has been through hell and high water with the first 3 months of the world tour, which I can talk about now, which we didn't at the time. The fact that they've got Maiden around the world and done the extraordinary work that they've done is just testament to how amazing these women are.
Yeah. Actually, I would love to ask everybody what they think about the refit as they're using the boat and as they're utilizing, and I bet there were a lot of changes that came to the boat, actually. If our intrepid crew would like to answer a couple questions about that. Basically, what changed between the racing? Was there a different configuration now that she's not racing, now that she has more people aboard and things? Is there a different configuration on board? And what's it like being in a newly restored boat? That can be for Nikki or Erica.
I'd say hello everyone, by the way. And being in a newly restored boat is maybe you imagine it to be slightly easier than it is. I would give the advice that anyone who newly restores a boat needs to be prepared for a long test sail, potentially around the world, as I think these guys did in the end. But yeah, I really do. I really think that the hardship of the refit probably did prepare, especially Belle and Erica to a certain point, how difficult then the rest of the year was. I think that sense of perseverance and I suppose like sense of purpose as to the bigger picture is what kept everyone going through it, and what kept us pushing and stopping and fixing stuff, and in the snow and the rain and through the Suez Canal with 4 security guards. And you know, from my point of view, that's the only thing that drove us through. So hopefully it can keep going and actually do what it was meant to do.
And what was your role in the overhaul of the boat, Belle?
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I joined very early on when the boat was still in the shed. So I think she hadn't even been painted. So she just looked like a big hull to me. So yeah, it was a lot of work. Let me say that we know every single inch on that boat. We know where everything is. We've had to fix her, pull things apart, redo it. So Erica was in that with that as well. So we know her extremely well, and that's probably the best part about it, that keeps us going. So we can fix anything on her out there.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Where is everybody right now? Because have you gone home? Are you home right now? What town is everybody in? Where are you at, Belle?
I'm in Camden, Maine, so I'm not home. Melbourne, Australia is home for me. I had the difficult decision when it all happened. I either had to get on a flight home to Australia or sail on the boat that my partner runs and come to America and stay with him. Lucky I did, because otherwise I'd still be stuck in Australia right now.
Maybe we can have a beer. I live in Brooklyn, Maine, so.
Oh, perfect. We can do that.
Erica, where are you at right now in the world?
I'm in Newport, Rhode Island. It's just next to my hometown, so pretty close to home. I've been based here. I obviously travel a lot, not just with Maiden, but before Maiden. But Newport's always my home base, I guess.
Nice. And where are you calling in from, Amalia?
I'm coming from Alicante, from Spain. Also, my operations base is here.
Oh, nice. Good,
It's
great.
9:19 at night.
Oh, nice. I hope you have a glass of wine. It just seems like the right time of day for that. And Nikki, where are you calling from?
I'm in Southsea in the UK, in the one corner of my house that isn't covered in chipping paint and wallpaper. I'm 6 months into a renovation, so a very slow renovation.
Like a COVID renovation, but it started before then, maybe.
It's like Maiden times 2, where like it doesn't quite go to plan, but I'm committed to finishing it.
That's great. And of course, Tracy, you're in the UK as well, right?
Yeah, I'm in London. Yeah. When everything came to a halt in March, it was a sort of a bit. The Maiden was in Antigua, and it was a bit of a scrabble to get everyone out. So Belle and Erica, actually, Amalia had to get home quickly before they closed Spain. Amalia and Erica packed the boat up. Didn't really know what we were going to do with her. My daughter, who runs the events on shore, I think managed to get pretty much the last flight out of Antigua. Everyone else sort of sailed off, and then eventually we managed to get Maiden on a ship, so she came home as well. So everyone kind of got where they were going, and now Maiden is actually not that far from Nikki, really. She's in Hamble on the south coast, having a well-earned rest and wondering when we're going to be starting again.
Since it's 20 past the hour, I just wanted to play a quick video.
I'm here to welcome you to the Maiden Crowdfunder. As you know, children's education has been hard hit by this horrifying virus and it impacted all their futures.
What you may not know is that disadvantaged and vulnerable girls are most at risk for not being able to return to their education or having access to it.
We know how important education is
for girls to reach their full potential.
If all girls have access to 12 years education, it improves their life choices and opportunities, benefiting themselves, their families, and their communities.
We're helping to raise funds to Keep Maiden Moving so that the Maiden Factor Foundation can continue their mission to work with communities to enable girls into education.
Thank you.
And there's that link again, bit.ly/WWS Maiden is where to go. And that will bring you straight to the crowdfunder. And if you're a member of Women Who Sail, we can see that you came by way of watching us today, and we can know that you're out there.
When you go onto the crowdfunder site, if you are a US citizen that needs a tax receipt so you can get your tax incentives, just click on the big orange bar with the American flag on it, and you can donate via our 501c3, so you will get your tax incentive.
Thank you. That's great. That's a really important thing to bring up. I was thinking about, so in terms of the tour, there's a few different things going on the boat when you all are actually on the move. Amalia is there to document a lot of the interactions between people and also what's going on board, right? There are educational programs happening on land, but then there's also people visiting the boat, and there are also people staying aboard the boat, getting miles and getting experience. So Maiden's being used both for the women's sailing cause still and for these educational opportunities. And so I wanted to know from crew and Tracy how that balance comes to be. So in other words, when you show up somewhere, how is your day? What are you doing? Like, how do you, what are the programs? Like when Maiden starts moving again, can we get aboard? What is it like?
Excuse me. So, well, empowering women happen in the moment that people come to the boat, the girls join us. It's extremely amazing when a girl comes the first day, and after she finishes, she ends the leg, after she's been training with us, she's much better. When we stop in its place, we visit the schools, the girls, kids in general, they fall in love with the story, that the story of Tracy with Maiden make them really believe that anything is possible, and they transmit to the parents. So it's like a big wave. The effect is amazing, and me being behind the camera, I can see the eyes, the feelings of people, and it's a non-stop. When we arrive to a place, we have people receiving us. The people is very interested in the boat. We visit the schools. We have a program with the kids. We have our big spinnaker, which is a symbol of the project with the hands of kids around the world. It's organic, it grows. It's one of my favorite pictures, is seeing that the spinnaker growing.
It is beautiful.
It's beautiful. And inside every hand, it's a message from kids to other kids to keep fighting for their dreams. I'm saying this and I'm having goosebumps because it's like, the feeling is like, it's like, it happens inside the boat, outside the boat, the message we receive in the school. So it's really a big wave effect, and everyone wants to support this. And very busy, but it's this energy that we receive from people is that keep us pushing, and more. We want more people helping us, and wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It reminds me of, I read that Erica said that she was inspired at 8 years old by a book she read about a woman who did a transatlantic race. You know, Erica, you're proof positive of this connection, and now you get to be that connection, and it must be kind of an emotional experience. Can you tell me about maybe one of the stops that affected you the most?
Absolutely. They were all quite, there's something at every stop, you know, that affects you, but one that keeps coming to my mind wasn't actually a planned school visit. We were in Sri Lanka. On the dock there is like a commercial wharf, lots of fishing boats and things like that, and there happened to be these school field trips coming down to, you know, see the water and see the fishing boats and see how a commercial wharf looks. And we were there coincidentally, and we were doing work on the boat. It didn't take long for the crowds of classes, often with female teachers as well, but girls and boys in the, like, coming off of the buses. And they were all just quite surprised to see a sailboat. First of all, that was already novel. And then to see all women doing pretty physical labor. You know, I was cleaning out a shop back on the side of the commercial pier or something really glamorous like that. And they were like looking inside, like, what's happening? What's going on? And we're, you know, lifting sails on and off the boat, and they're watching how the mechanics work. And the teachers the adults were asking more about us, and we explained that we're sailing around the world. No, it's just us. And you could see how excited and like just totally flabbergasted some of them were. And that will always stand out as one of those organic kind of moments of seeing minds expand.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. We had some questions come in when people signed up to kind of get a little reminder about our time today. A lot of people and women who sail, this comes up very frequently about fear. And I think especially when you start talking to circumnavigators, everybody wants to know about your worst day. Lynn Party actually says that a lot in all the books that she's written. But that you never talk about the days when you were sipping a cocktail in the back of a boat. So have there been challenging times and difficult passages, or have you been pretty lucky with weather and things like that?
I think Nikki could probably kick off with the first part of the tour.
Yeah, Nikki, let's have it.
Sure. You said that and I was like, which one shall I choose? You know, I think it would be easy to say like, oh, that crazy time with the pirate in the Red Sea, or down the Suez Canal, or somewhere in the Gulf of Aden bouncing off Somalia and Yemen. I say these things and I have to kind of pinch myself, like, did we actually do that? But actually the hardest time on Maiden was, in fact, the first day we left for me. You can say something is really difficult, and you can say, you know, oh wow, like we had this huge storm in the middle of the ocean, but sometimes the difficult thing is actually just facing the reality of the situation you're in. And when we left Southampton and we sailed only as far as Plymouth, which is overnight coastal sailing, I was seasick, everyone was seasick. I think it was, in fact, it was the only time I've ever been seasick. It was like all our emotions from the last 4 or 5 months just poured out, literally. And yeah, and we all sort of looked at each other when we got there and said, yeah, this is going to be really, really hard. And are we going to do this? And I think we had this crazy night out in Plymouth and really bonded as a team and decided, yeah, like this is going to be worth it and we're going to pull through. And thank gosh we did, because it still ended up moving and it was all worth it. But yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. Belle, do you remember that way?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I remember standing in the yacht club when we were leaving, and I'm like, I feel really nervous. I've never felt anxious to go out to sea, and I think that's, Nikki was right. It's with all the emotions of everything and watching the boat be rebuilt and the struggles that we're going through with that, and then to only get as far as Plymouth on the first day, we realised that we've got a lot of work to go to get this boat into its, you know, working order to 100% get us around the world. And that's what it was. It was just a constant sailing challenge to see how the boat adapts, because she'd just come straight out of the yard and straight into the water, and we just went, we're going around the world. But we realised we still needed to do some more things to her to make her watertight. We quickly found out that all the
just watertight.
Yeah, she wasn't. It was a nice water feature down below. Let's put it that way.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and we were sick, but it's all good now. We sorted all that out with a lot of patience and a lot of girls coming together to get it sorted.
Yeah.
I particularly like, I'm just going to throw in the alternator story. So we've been having problems with, I mean, the restoration was fraught with problems, and a lot of which we didn't realise until Maiden had left and was, you know, sort of on her way through the med and stopping and fixing things and moving, and we would send people out with parts and then engineers, and I mean, it was really tough for this crew to get this boat, you know, as far as they did. I mean, things started getting sorted out in Australia, and then New Zealand, we took her out of the water and we corrected all the mistakes that had been made in Hamble. There's one particular story which I love, which is when they're in Australia. I had a call, I think it was from Wendy at that point, saying that we need 2 new alternators and they don't make them here and we can't get them from there. So we literally got someone to go to Holland, pick up 2 brand new alternators just as the factory closed, go to an airport, meet someone else who was flying out to Australia, give them the alternators. They flew out to Australia, gave them the alternators, and then flew home. I mean, there has just been this whole scenario of you know, what this crew has had to go through to keep doing the amazing job they do, you know, which is why we need your help tonight to help them keep doing that.
Erica, you're a systems person, right? You do a lot of maintenance on board and things like that, I've read.
Yeah, I like systems. I'm not the engineer on board, but that's up my alley.
Right. I did see your face, you know, like about the alternator. Yep.
That was quite a backstory for that story. I wasn't sure which part of it Tracy was going to touch on. So.
Yeah, behind every story we tell.
Yeah. Amalia, are you learning quite a bit about, I think that I don't know how long you've spent on boats, like while you're documenting, you must have to pitch into all of that sort of thing, keeping your eyes on those things. And when it comes to Maiden, you're probably doing a bit of maintenance and have some of those chores as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to. Well, I never thought myself I was gonna be doing that, but you learn many things in Maiden, which is pretty good. You understand much more wider. I've been in boats, but never been fixing. I've been documenting how they fix boats, but never in my life. So it was quite amazing experience.
Are you enjoying that? Are you enjoying learning how to do that hands-on? Yeah.
It opened a new world for me. Yeah, the first time Belle told me, Amalia, now you had to service a winch, and I was like, oh my God, no way. no, I don't want to sing this board, you know? And well, I download a manual, but she was there with me, Amalia, no worries. So I saw it many times how they do it. So I started like a watch, and then I was enjoying a lot, and I like a lot. So many things I learned, many new things. So
it is kind of rewarding to do boat work. And don't tell anybody I actually said that.
Don't be scared. It's like it removes the scare. I was so scared, but no, why? No.
Yeah. I have a special question from 10-year-old Cora for Tracy. What was it that kept you going through the rough patches of sailing Maiden? When you guys did you not believe you could do it, and what kept you going?
We always believed we could sail around the world because I'd done the 85-86 race, and out of 260 crew, there were 3 girls, and I was one of them, and I was the only and first girl on an ocean racing maxi as cook. Obviously, I wasn't allowed to be anything else. But I remember getting to the end of this race and thinking, it's not that hard. Why are all these guys saying, oh, it's really hard? It's not hard. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So I knew Maiden with an all-female crew could sail around the world. What I didn't know was whether we could get to the start line. And that was the hardest thing. When we crossed the start line, it was all stuff we knew. Getting to the start line was the nightmare, and the things that were said about us and how much people didn't want us to go. And what kept me going was the fear that if we failed, then the next all-female crew who came after us would have not just the fact that people told them they couldn't do it, they would have our failure like a millstone around their neck. So we would hurt maiden sailing, women sailing, by not getting Maiden to the start line. And every morning I woke up and I thought, right, that's not an option. We have to do this. And that's what kept me going.
Right. That's a really good point, actually. And I was thinking about this in terms of the refit, and that very first sail when you guys went to Plymouth. There's a lot behind this boat. There's a lot of story that comes with it. It's not like you're hopping on a one design and going. And yes, it's got a name, and yes, you care about your crew. How has, for instance, Nikki, how has the lore of what has happened with Maiden affected the way that you are aboard? Does it at all? Does the story really, is that inspiring? Is that kind of terrifying? How does that sum up now that you're a part of it?
Well, I actually was given Tracy's book, Maiden, by my dad on my first trip on a boat on my own. So, and I said, oh, that's so boring. I loved it. So when I got onto Maiden myself, it was like lots of pieces of the puzzle started to come together. And it's like having this reminder that you need to take responsibility for the position that you're in. And we had a responsibility on Maiden to give as much or more as Tracy did and the team did on Maiden 30 years ago. And we all have a responsibility to do that. And that's what the project's about. And that's why people should be donating money, because it's our responsibility to. How much money do you spend on 3 coffees? Like £10. You give £10 to something and you could actually make a positive difference to people. And yeah, the boat, that's what the boat signifies. The boat signifies women taking responsibility for women.
I appreciate that. There was a really fun fact when we were trying to kind of quantify for people what a donation gets. Do you know what I'm saying? So let's say you can only give $5, £5. What does that translate to in terms of the programs? And Tracy once told us that the boat, when she's on her tours, can triple the money that went into her.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you were to give $20 right now, Maiden will turn it into 60. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
And
so when we go into port, every pound that we spend on Maiden doing all of the things that she does, we translate into £3 with what we raise. And then the projects that we can help with that are, well, it's inestimable. But for me, and I think Nikki's touched upon this, what all the crew have, it's not just about physically what the funds can buy, it's about girls seeing Maiden. You know, it's about girls touching her, being on her, seeing the crew, being inspired by the crew. And you know, I can't remember who said this, but you know, if girls can see it, they can be it. And for me, that is the absolute crux. But yeah, we aim to increase from £3 from every pound to £5 over the next 3 years.
wow, that's really something. And is there any indication right now of when we might see Maiden, or is this we're still kind of in tentative times and taking care of her on land, right? She has a new cradle and...
Well, she has her old cradle, which has also been around the world, I have to say. We shipped it to New Zealand to take her out in New Zealand. Then we shipped it to Newport, Rhode Island, because this summer we were supposed to be on the east coast of America. And we were supposed to do our annual survey in Newport in, I can't remember where, May or June. But then we had to bring Maiden home, and then someone else very kind paid for the shipping of the cradle to come back to the UK. We are surrounded by kindness. Maiden generates this magic that brings people in, and it's all women. All of these people who've been doing all this, it's all women. So, you know, there is this extraordinary coming together of women, the strength and this power. And as Nikki was saying, you know, women doing things for other women. You know, as my mother used to say, there's a special place in hell for a woman who doesn't help other women. And I love that saying. So she is out of the water. We do have a little bit more work to do on her, which we'll probably do around about February. And then we are hoping, realistically, looking at the news and the situation with the virus and the vaccine, that we will be doing a UK tour in April, and then we'll be heading over to the east coast of the States. We're just gonna pick up 2020 and we're gonna move it to 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be doing the east coast next year.
And we can expect to see crew doing that. For instance, Belle, are you on board? Are you like, when Maiden comes back online, you're
100%,
there?
100% I'll be there again. Yeah.
I hope so.
Counting down the days already. I went sailing on the weekend, and I'm like, for the first time since Antigua, and I was like, oh, I really miss Maiden, and I love it. And I was in an all-female team as well for the weekend, so that was fantastic to be out with women on the water.
That's great. How about you, Erica? Are you getting geared up for that, or are you what are you up to? What are you doing?
I'll definitely be back when we restart for sure. In the meantime, I've started doing a bit of shorthanded sailing, which I've had my eyes set on for a long time. And I'm also running a 12-meter out of Newport. We do some racing and chartering.
Wow, that's great. And Nikki, you're, thinking about it, or?
I have a bit of unfinished business with Maiden, so we always talked about me coming back. So
He's got to come back at some point, just to sail on the boat when she's working, not breaking down every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back to get more involved in the charity side of things, because we were more on the get her moving, take one. So yeah, that would be really nice.
Yeah, I bet. So the different phases of having her settle into her groove of going places, and then being able to turn and shift your attentions over to that. And then Amalia, I can imagine you're excited at the possibility of being able to tell stories again about Maiden. I've been looking at your pictures since we started doing these Maiden Mondays, and being able to connect your face with that is really lovely to meet you. I'm really impressed with your storytelling. And what sort of storytelling are you doing right now while you're apart from Maiden?
Well, at the moment, I'm more focused in sailing, taking profit to be with my family, and also helping some boat service company. But yeah, I stopped doing pictures, let's say, for a while. So I'm focusing in on the things, but I can't wait to come back to Maiden and to keep doing things, special things, to make an impact in someone else's lives, to do with this change.
Well, they're very lucky to have your passion and your eye. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. Now, I want to make sure that we know about the bit.ly link, and that everybody knows that we're here for the Maiden Factor, which is the organization that Maiden works as a boat. She's going to work. She's not at work right now, but she's going to go to work on this tour to raise money for access to girls' education, or girls for access and education. And at these stops, they connect with girls who are in places where they might be in danger of not getting a full 12 years worth of education. In these places, these girls get to connect with the boat, with the story of Maiden. They also get to connect with the women on board and see women doing these jobs. They met someone called Captain, who's a woman. They met somebody called Engineer, who's a woman. These are the things that we're here for today, and make sure that we keep Maiden moving. So that link is bit.ly/WWS Maiden. And when you type that in, it gets counted. We get to know if you're out there. We do get to know if women who sail in particular have been visiting that site and donating to the Maiden Factor. So East Coast of the United States, I'm very excited about you coming to visit me.
Actually coming to visit you.
I'll be in Maine, but I'll also probably just follow you straight up the coast. And I'm sure the coastal sailing isn't necessarily what everybody likes to do, but in all honesty, I mean, Erica, you went to BU, so are you excited about the Boston stop?
Yeah, that'll be cool for sure. It'll be really cool coming to Newport, because that is my home base, and I have a huge community here. But it'll be really cool going to Boston. I've only ever sailed an FJ and the Charles, so it'll be funny coming into Boston Harbor on a bigger boat.
Yeah, I've only been past that place. I passed it in both directions, and I I thought, I'm not going in there. Although Baltimore was very interesting as well. That's a great town to bring a boat into. I wanted to know a little bit about how crew ends up. Do you guys end up getting trained to do some of the educational programs? So in other words, are you actually going ashore and doing some of those things, or are you mostly concerned with the boat?
So up until now, it's been, the 3-year tour was split into two. The first half was working with 6 partner charities. And every penny we raised and we split equally between them. And in return, they gave us our expertise and their expertise and knowledge about getting girls into education, because I don't know how to get girls into education. First year and a half was spent doing that. The second, well, actually, we are starting again. We're not going to just do a second half. I mean, that just doesn't sound good enough. We're going to start again in April and do 3 years. That's the first time the crew's hearing this. Sorry, guys, I haven't had time to tell you. It's just another 150,000 ocean miles with, over 60 stopovers in over 30 countries. It'll be fine. And what we'll be doing is linking in with one of our charities in particular, who will be working on mentoring at the stopovers. So we'll still be fundraising. The team will still be going into schools. They'll still be talking to young women. We'll still be having the tours, fundraising on the boat, screenings and everything else. But you're right, we will be much more interactional with the community programs themselves.
Sure, I have questions here, so pardon me while I disappear over into the side here for a second. There was a question here specifically for Nikki. Can you share a fun or surprising story about sailing with Greta Thunberg?
A fun or exciting story about sailing with Greta.
Fun or surprising? So like that territory if you want to.
Well, thank you, first of all, to everyone on Maiden who emailed me before anyone else did when I got the job and said, woo, we're backing you. So that was
Funny
awesome.
how we knew that.
Gosh, a surprising or funny fact. She really, really likes to dance. I can tell you that. That's nothing to do with sailing, but if you put music on, anything, Greta will dance like one of those people who dances harder than everyone else does in the room.
Oh, I love thinking about her just joyfully muppeting all over the place. Just, yeah, little kid style. That's awesome. And that was a difficult time of year to be sailing in that part of the Atlantic, was it not? Or did it go pretty well?
Yeah, it was hard, but like anything, and like with all of us, you know, at sea everything's relative. So when you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, 60 knots of wind, that's like awful, and you never leave port in 60 knots of wind. But if you're sailing into it, you know, it goes 30, 40, 50, and you get used to it. So it was challenging. Yes, it was challenging. Maybe challenging not just for, like, we're all sailors. Like, everyone who's on Maiden's a sailor. You all know how to use a drill. Like, all these things that people find inspiring, like, they're actually kind of the day job. And the hard thing is the people and the dynamics and the, you know, all that other difficult stuff.
Yeah.
That's the difficult thing. So yeah, that was also challenging at times.
Yeah, I bet. Now I would like to turn our attention over to sponsor this week. It's Nautic Ed. Has generously donated money to the Maiden Factor, and is also donating monies collected for classes booked to the Maiden Factor. And I want to make sure everybody knows about Nautic Ed, and so we're going to be talking with Lauren, who is from Nautic Ed, and here to talk with us for a couple of minutes about that. This Bitly link is the perfect one to go to if you want to know more about how the sponsorship works. Hello, Lauren.
Hello.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. And Nautic Ed is an online platform for learning about sailing. I'd love to know just a little bit more about it, please.
Well, thanks for having me. It has been awesome to listen to everybody today. The mission of Maiden and hearing about the inspiring stories for women and empowering message is something that we at Nautic Ed can really get behind. So Nautic Ed is an international sailing education company providing online theory and access to a network of sailing schools for practical experience. Now, in this day and age, making sailing education accessible and interesting for adults and for kids is really important. And there's no better time than COVID to brush up on your sailing skills and your online education. We like to tease that the best social distancing is getting out there on the boat, whether that's doing a charter or going lake sailing or getting involved in racing. Nautic Ed offers a range of courses for beginners to experts. We have 2 free sailing courses, basics of sail trim and what we like to call rules of the road. We have an electronic logbook, yacht charter services, so we're yacht charter agents as well. And then we have a free resume building tool. So we've really tried to take sailing into the 21st century. And our goals with that is not only to empower youth, but also to make it more accessible. And we really think online education is the way to make it accessible. So in addition to adult sailing education, Nautic Ed has just recently launched Getting Started in Dinging Sailing. And what this is, it's an online interactive course for kids aged about 10 through 15. And what we've done is we've tried to make it really fun and inspirational for young sailors. And so through animated characters, Finn and Anna, they teach the fundamentals of dinghy sailing with interactive animations and 3D imagery. We're just really pleased to support the Maiden Factor and to team up with Women Who Sail and the National Women's Sailing Association. And this week, all proceeds from courses purchased through the Maiden Factor, all of the proceeds will be going back to the Maiden Factor, and any courses purchased through that link after this week will donate 25%. So we're really excited to join up and support the cause to educate women and girls.
And you guys have a lot of courses on there for people at different levels, and this is great on both ends for people and women who sail who are watching, and also for the Maiden Factor, and we really appreciate it. It's a useful, helpful thing that you're offering, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, and I'll try to not be so starstruck.
I'm over here taking screenshots, so that's fine. I just mute it before I take a screenshot. I wanted to let everybody know that we've had people watching today from Carefree, Arizona, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Vancouver, BC in Canada, Puget Sound, New York City, Seal Beach, California, Hilo, Hawaii, all kinds of places. Annapolis. Somebody would like Maiden to come to Annapolis, please. Which
we'll be there next year.
Skip it. Next year we're going to be in Annapolis. We also have somebody from California who's joining the call right now. So I'm going to hand this over to Charlotte Kaufman, founder of Women Who Sail, who is here to say thank yous and join the party.
Hey there. When you said California, I was like, oh, I'm California. That's me. Thank you, Anne, so much for doing this. I just wanted to pop on at the end of this, our 5th Maiden Monday. This is the first time we've done a collaboration like this in Women Who Sail. So the first thing I want to do is thank everyone. I have this sticky note, this list. So hopefully I'll get everyone. First, Tracy Edwards, thank you for Maiden and everyone on your team who has worked together to make this possible. Debbie Huntsman with the National Women's Sailing Association. And then everyone in our Women Who Sail leadership team, Anne Bryant, the work that you have put into this, not just today hosting, but for all of these, thank you. Amy Sinclair, Leanne Toth, Chris Self. It's been awesome. It's not lost on me that for the first time in 9 years, since the founding of our group, our first collaboration is with Maiden, is with Tracy. Because Maiden means a lot. Like if you go back to the answer Tracy gave a little bit earlier to 10-year-old Cora, who's my daughter, who is watching this on another screen, I was so moved by what she said, saying like the real reason why we had to keep going is because we were the first. And if we didn't succeed, there would be this millstone around our necks. And God, I think every woman listening understood. And when we watched the documentary last year, we all understood how important what happened there. Your success was so important. And that's what Maiden is about. Yes, you are raising money to help with girls' education. And that is super important. But the fact that you inspire, that means more than anything. And if Maiden has inspired you, and I know it has inspired so many of our groups, this is a moment to give back and to help them. So go to the bit.ly link, $5, $50, $500. This is a moment when you can give back to an organization, to Maiden, to Tracy, to the crew who has done so much for women and advanced us so far. So thank you, Tracy. We've got that bit.ly link, bit.ly, WWS Maiden. If you're American, if you're US, there's a big orange button on the page, so you can click there and donate and get the 501c3 status. But if you've been waiting until the end, don't. Go and donate. And thank you, Tracy, and the crew.
Thank you, Charlotte, for you came up with this idea in one of the first conversations we had to support Maiden, and it was the first really proactive thing that a group of women has done to help us. We've had obviously loads of women help us, but this has been really special. A group of women, you took your lead from us or whatever, and you created this extraordinary group. And as soon as I joined Women Who Sail, I just felt so at home. It was a 50,000 amazing women. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's so thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Anne and Leanne and Debbie and Ian, who's hiding in the background.
Ian
there.
too. Yes, thank you, Ian.
And thank you to Lauren and Nautica for your sponsorship. And I would like to say thank you to my extraordinary team, the crew that I have now who are amazing. Nikki, who's skippered the boat, Annie, who'll be skippering next, and also to my extraordinary shore crew, who've also been in the background here. When I call up going, where are the videos and the photographs? They're like, don't worry, we will send them. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to everyone who's taken part in Maiden Mondays. It has just been so special. An evening with a bunch of women, what's not to like?
It's not to like. Yeah, and thank you very, very much for joining us. Nikki and Erica and Amalia and Belle, I've been excited for a good solid month leading up to this, and I really appreciate everybody's time and expertise, and we can't wait to see Maiden show up in places all over the world. That's about it. I think that we're going to play a video here that I think everybody needs to watch. So this last video that we're going to play is speaks to the sort of barriers that I wrote down. Actually, IndieWire is this publication that was quoted in the Maiden trailer, and they said, "Timely and relevant, bold women breaking down barriers." And I long for the day when the barriers aren't put up anymore, because those are man-made. All of the barriers to women's education were put there by somebody, and it's up to us to take them away. And it's really amazing that a story like Maiden and a boat like Maiden can be the ambassador for all of the things that we're feeling and thinking, which is that an active female contingent in our society makes a better society. Involving women in education means that the world will get better. All of the pain that we're feeling right now will get better. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you for being a member of Women Who Sail.